We are going to be doing a really great panel today. And just to fill you in on what we're going to be doing, we'll be having a really great discussion, followed by about 10 or so minutes for Q&A to answer any questions. So as you have questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A, and let's all be respectful of each other. This is for all of us to learn. So I'm Ashley DiGianelli. I'm a senior product manager at Meetup, and today I'm joined by amazing Meetup organizers, Tonia Tyler, Scott Gore, and Brenda Bea for a discussion on how they've been using member dues to offset their costs. They'll talk about their reasons for setting them up and share their best practices. So you'll be able to learn about different pricing structures and how to use member dues to help increase your member engagement. Our event guidelines. The video will be recorded. You will not appear in the video. We ask that everyone remains muted during the event. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A as I shared. And for closed captioning, it is available. Please turn it on if you need it or it would be helpful, and just select your preferences. For today, Tonia Tyler is the host of Coffee with Tea on Confident Strides podcast. She's also a YouTube creative, public speaker, and leadership and lifestyle coach. As a military retiree of the U.S. Army, thank you for your service, and a former social media manager, she pulls from her vast experience to educate and empower individuals, small business owners, and entrepreneurs. Tonia's mission has always been to serve. The experience has taught her how to set goals, build teams, and develop leaders, and she offers her services to individuals who are interested in accelerating their learning and expanding their circle of influence, as well as developing leadership qualities and growing their network. As a founder of Confident Strides, Tonia's personal mission is to strengthen the core of an individual, which leads to strengthening other domains to include relationships and life's work to flourish as a natural byproduct of empowerment. Welcome, Tonia. All right, Scott Gore served in the U.S. Navy. Thank you for your service right out of high school and got a taste of what the world is like. Since then, he's traveled to and worked in over 20 countries, mostly loving, learning, and serving wonderful people living in hard places. He's worked for a big CPA firm, an inner city youth outreach organization, the Salvation Army, a summer camp for inner city kids, an international relief and development organization. He currently does fundraising consulting for nonprofits, drives for Lyft and a limo company, writes screenplays, had one movie made so far and another one in post-production, and runs a wine meetup group. And last, but certainly not least, Miss Brenda Bea has a full-time job as a government examiner, but her passion and much of her free time is devoted to introverted girlfriends. She's been involved since 2017, starting out as an event organizer for the Dallas Meetup chapter, then a city leader, and now part owner managing 14 chapters. Brenda lives east of Dallas, Texas with her 2-year-old son. Outside of introverted girlfriends and chasing her son around, she also enjoys listening to music, watching sports, and taking outdoor walks. Welcome. I'm so excited to speak to you all and maybe learn something about how to better run my meetup group, which I run for caregivers. I would love for each of you to tell us a little bit about your groups. And Tonia, I'll have you start.
Oh, thank you, Miss Ashley. It's a pleasure to be here. About my groups, it's all under, I'm a pro network, so it's all under the Confident Strides umbrella, but I have three groups. I have a women's empowerment group, I have a personal development group, and I have an entrepreneurs group. But like I said, they all serve a purpose, all under the Confident Strides brand.
Amazing. Brenda, can you tell us about your group?
Yeah, so Introverted Girlfriends, we've been on the Meetup platform since 2014. Started in Charlotte, North Carolina. We've now grown to over 14 chapters across the US and hoping to open 6 new chapters this year. And like the name implies, it's only for introverted women. So Our goal is to provide a safe space for our members to get out of the house and socialize in small groups. Although we're introverted, we know we still need human contact.
Awesome.
Excellent.
And yeah, the group that I'm the organizer for is called the Wineopotamus Bloat. And we are a happy hour group that gets together weekly for weekly happy hours. And then we also do other special events throughout the weeks at different times.
Excellent. So I'm going to start asking some questions around member dues. As you think of questions, drop them in the Q&A. We'll answer some live and some in the chat itself. And feel free to, share with each other as well. How long have you been charging member dues? And how did you first decide you should charge? And how did your members react?
I'll go ahead and jump in on that one first. The group that I'm the organizer for has been around for 5 years. And I was not the original organizer. Someone else started it and ran it for 3.5 years. Through COVID, we started back up after COVID. And then he scheduled 3 events and said he was going to shut the group down because he was going to start traveling. And I stuck my foot in my mouth and said, well, Mark, why don't you just get someone to run it for you since it's already up and running? And he said, do you want to? And I said, no, of course I don't want to. I just want to show up and drink wine and hang out with my friends. And then I drank a couple glasses of wine and reluctantly agreed to take over the group. So I've been running it for about 1.5 years now. And the dues, he's always charged dues when he started the group. It was $5 a year. So it was really low. And then I remember when I was a member, he increased it. He sent out a message to the group members and said, hey, I'm increasing it from $5 a year to $10 a year. And I remember thinking, like, I would pay $10 a month to be a part of this group. So like, I didn't care at all. And then when I took over, I just kept it at $10. And he used to usually just have people pay him cash. And I didn't want to have to deal with the cash and keeping track of who gave me money and who's this from. So I directed most of the people to the through Meetup to give through the platform that's set up on Meetup. So most of the people, and we have about 215 members right now, most of the people have paid through the Meetup platform, but some have paid cash during that time.
Do you remember why he increased it to $10? Like, what was his reasoning at the time of the increase?
Oh gosh, a couple of years ago. Maybe to cover the cost of we do name tags. If people remember the intro picture there of the 3 of us, I've got a bunch of name tags on my shirt. And one of the traditions is at the end of every night, so people don't walk into a parking lot wearing a name tag, they put their name tags on me. So there's a cost of name tags. We do a weekly contest and there's prizes. So maybe it's just to kind of cover his costs and stuff for that. Recently, one of our members, we're having a good problem is that we have a lot of people that want to come to our events. When I joined and was a member, we would have 20 to 30 and sometimes 40. After 1.5 years now, we have 40 to 50 and sometimes 60. And finding enough places that can fit that many people is a challenge. So some of the members have actually come to me and suggested increasing the fee to $25 a year, which it's their suggestion. So I think I might go ahead and do that. We'll see.
Awesome. Tonia and Brenda.
I'll go next. I've been running my meetup groups for over 3 years, and I didn't start charging dues till September of last year. And it's because, like many organizers, I got frustrated. I got frustrated with having people coming on and not like come to the events. And the way I always looked at it is like, it was my parking lot. I have these venues. I put all these events out, and people would show up and just sit in the parking lot and not come in. And I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to get you out the car, coming to these events. And as I was getting frustrated, I was like, I was walking, which is part of the Confidence Rides name. I would go out for a walk. So I had to like have a a come to Jesus moment with myself. It's like, okay, Tanya, you're frustrated. You don't want to give up the group. What can you do? And the idea of dues was always in the back of my mind, but I was like, if I do it, I know I'm going to lose members. So I joined a group. It's run by a fantastic organizer. And basically we had, I guess you could say, a moment of us sitting down and reflection as organizers. And she had us write down a love letter to our members as what we would do when we charge dues. And I wrote out everything, like the cost of Zoom, the cost of, the meetups, just the time and energy to keep the group running and all this stuff it's time consuming. Absolutely. But it's enjoyable, right? So you enjoy it, but at the same time, you're feeling frustrated because it's like, okay, this is my time. It's like a business. It becomes like a business. So eventually I was like, you know what? I'm going to just have to pull the trigger on dues. And I was thinking about like, okay, I could do as low as $5. But then I'm thinking, if I'm going to charge $5, I'm going to lose members. So why not ask for what I want, right? So the thing was, I want $35 for the year. And it broke down to like $2.91 per month. And I thought that was pretty reasonable for all that I offer. And again, sure enough, when the 30 days, when you pull your dues, you have 30 days. And I went from, I had charged dues on 2 groups. One group was almost 900 women on there. When I charged the dues at the end of the 30 days, yes, I woke up the next morning, I had only 21 members. So I went from, 800 to 21 in a day. But I was like, at the end of the day, though, when I charged it, I had peace of mind at myself. So instead of me getting frustrated because people weren't showing up, I was mainly frustrated with myself for not following my heart to charge the dues in the first place. And we've been growing back ever since. So it's like, you just have to trust the process. It unfolds. And like you said, it was like, eventually people stop coming anyway. So if you're going to charge dues, ask for what you want and be ready to accept whatever happens when you choose it.
Excellent. Brenda?
Yeah, so I've had that same experience Tanya has had where, we started a new chapter, and once that trial period ends, you see your numbers drastically go down, and it is, quite disappointing and a little sad in that moment. But over time, those numbers do climb back up if you're putting out good quality events. But Introverted Girlfriends, we first started charging dues in 2018, and we did start at $5 a year. So as we continue to grow, we recognize the need to give back to our volunteers. So like I said, we have over 14 chapters. I live in one city, so we have volunteers in those other chapters, a city leader for each chapter, event organizers that are hosting the events. So we needed something to give back to them. So we do gift cards and challenges and special giveaways. Also a way to cover our meetup fees, because Meetup charges a fee for each group that we have. Meetup also charges to do the dues through their system, and also a way to cover our time and effort. Like Tonia said, I have a full-time job. Introverted Girlfriends is just a side passion, but it takes a lot of time and effort into managing, organizing, administration. So that's just to help cover some of that, to make it feel like it's worth it. So there were some complaints from members when we started charging dues. Also, when we increased dues from $5 to $12 in 2019. But overall, it was received well. And now that I'm hearing that Tanya's charging as much as $35 a year, I'm like, okay, maybe we need to amp it up as well, so we can really give back to our volunteers and keep on growing.
Excellent. Some of you touched on this, but how do you collect your dues, and do you use Meetup's member dues feature that we offer on the site? I believe Scott.
I'll jump on this one
Awesome.
first. we do set up and collect the dues directly through Meetup. We do not accept cash payment. So in Meetup, there's a function to manage money where you can set up your membership dues, and you can do it either where it's monthly or annually. I looked and saw that the minimum amount is $1.50, so you can do $1.50 a year. I did not see a maximum amount, but once you put in the amount that you want to charge your members, Meetup actually will tell you how much you'll receive after the processing fee. So I think that's a nice feature. You also select the free trial period. So the minimum is 14 days. And it goes all the way up to 180 days. So once a member joins your group, whatever you set your trial period, they have full access during that period. But once it ends, they need to pay in order to continue having access. And actually, another neat thing is that Meetup, they can't leave the group and then come back and start a trial period all over again. We have people that leave the group for whatever reason, they come back and they say, I'm getting an error, I can't rejoin. I'm like, that means you let your trial period end. We can't manually reset that. You have to pay the dues. Generally, they don't have an issue paying it at that time because there's a reason they're coming back, right? But Meetup uses Stripe to collect that, and I don't have access to anybody's credit card information. We do have people that request refunds for whatever reason, but Meetup makes it easy to go in and refund those dues. So the process, I think, is really good directly through Meetup.
Brenda, can you just explain the trial period for anyone who doesn't know what it is?
Yes, so that trial period begins either at the point you start your dues. So if you haven't, charged dues in the past, or at any point that a new member joins your group. So during that trial period, they have full access. They can RSVP to events. They have full access, to that discussion board if you have that set up. Once that trial period ends, so if you set it up for 30 days, 60 days, once that trial period ends and they have not paid, I believe Meetup will send them reminders. If they haven't paid, they're no longer able to RSVP to events or have any access to features that members have.
I want to also add to what I learned, like about the fees too, is like Miss Brenda mentioned, you think they're gone, but they're not. They're sitting over like in the waiting area to pay their dues. So you can still reach out to them and encourage them to pay dues if you want to do that. But they're not completely gone until you hit their refresh, and then they're gone. But that's one thing I learned, like they're not completely gone. They're just off, we're in the waiting area until they pay their dues.
That's a great point. This way you can still reach out to previous members and connect with them. Scott, did you have anything to add about your dues? I know you collected on the site, but I want to.
Yeah, most of it's through the site. Occasionally it's cash, and then I mark them as paid. It seems like the way the system is set up, we have a 1-month trial membership, and I always try to prioritize the people who are new. If they're on a wait list for an event, like I'll bump them ahead of other people because I want them to be able to come to the group during that month-long thing. Because sometimes the events fill up so quickly, they might be on the wait list the whole time, but I make sure that happens. It seems like they can't pay the fee until the trial membership has expired. And I don't understand why. Like, it seems like if they join and they like it and they want to pay, they should be able to pay. So I don't know if that's a Meetup system thing, but it seems like I've heard that from several people. Like, hey, I want to pay, but I can't. And it's like, oh, well, you're still in the trial membership.
That's great feedback. I will share that with my fellow product team members, and hopefully we'll see it improve.
I want to also add, we also on our descriptions allow folks to pay an alternate settings. So if they want to do Venmo, if that's easier for them, or if they want to pay in PayPal, they do. What we do is just say, state what you're paying it for. Like I have the different groups. So if they're paying it for this particular group, they'll say, I'm paying for this group. And then like Scott mentioned, I can mark them as paid. So it's easier. So they don't have to create a new account. They can call, I just put the alternative spots where they can pay and just let me know what they're paying it for. And that makes it easier for them to manage their accounts too.
Awesome. I would love to talk about the membership model. So I know each of you sort of have a different membership model, and Tonia, I would love if you could take this question first, because I believe you have like tiered memberships, which I think is really interesting, and would love to hear more about it.
Well, thank you, Miss Ashley. I don't know if it's considered membership dues, but I charge my event host for their access to the network. So the best way I always say it, it's like I own a cable network. So each of my groups are like networks. And then what I do is I connect with other or collaborate with other event hosts. And if they want to host an event, I charge them an event host fee. And so it's like basically what they're doing is they're committing to a certain time of their week. So I can't be everywhere. So what I'll partner with other event hosts or other people who want to do like help the community, like help the women or coaches or whatever you want. And we partner and they'll say, okay, put me down for Thursdays at 11. I'm like, okay, I'll put you down. So then I charge them a commitment fee, a fee for them to be a part of that network. And then everybody who connects with them is their particular person. So it's been a way I can like work my fees. And the way I look at it this way, it's like, I love Meetup, but Meetup charges me every time I want to start a group, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, if you want to host an event, I want to support you. There's things that come with it for me to do the descriptions, the write-ups and all that stuff. Like I said, it's time. Yeah. So I don't charge them a full fee to do it. I charge them a discounted fee, like $25 a month, and they can host as many events as they want, but I'll be on the back end teaching them how to put it out there, do the description, do the marketing, all that stuff for them. So it's sort of like a win-win. I don't have to be as many places, but it builds up my leadership team as we go that way. So that's how I've been using the Pro Network.
Amazing. Brenda?
Yeah, so we just have, one model where we charge $12 a year for our members. Again, our city leaders and event organizers and volunteers, we do waive the dues for them. We don't require them to pay the $12. So, our members are getting access to all of the events that are hosted in the chapter. We also have a private Facebook group that they can join. We also send out a bi-weekly newsletter that highlights different topics related to being introverted. So I feel that, $12 is good for what they're getting as a member.
Amazing. And Scott, what do your members get? And what is your membership levels?
They get a lot. I think, one of the great things about Meetup, and I think I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders. I mentioned driving Lyft, or you mentioned that I drive Lyft. And I always tell people, have you heard of Meetup? You got to check it out. You got to find it. Because people are, especially during the pandemic, got so insulated and isolated. And we need social connection just to be healthy. And so that's what the Wine-Eponymous Bloat group is all about, is just getting together and having a glass of wine, but getting together and socializing. And we stand and we mix and mingle and we have fun. And the guy who originally started the group wrote a book about wine, had a TV show about wine. I don't know anything about wine. So they're not going to get an education about wine because I don't know anything about it. But they get a chance to come together with a group of friends and just have fun and socialize. We always have a fun question. Today's question is, when you do your laundry, do you mix your whites and colors or do you separate them? And so everyone's going to put their name and the answer to that question on their name tag. And it's going to make it easy for even a first timer or a long timer to interact and connect with one another. So we do those weekly events. We just did a year-end gala with a live band and getting dressed up in potluck. We do potlucks, we do pool parties, we do concerts, comedy shows, special smaller events. And so it's just a great place to come together and hang out with friends.
That's amazing. Sounds like a little bit of everything for everyone. On the topic of how much you charge and what you give, I'd love to know, how did you decide how much to charge and what was right? And did you do any research to decide on your number? Like Tonia, how did you end up at your number for your groups?
Well, Miss Ashley, I like being a part, thinking of the business mindset. I've been learning business as I go. So I had to sit down and actually run my numbers, know my numbers. How much does it cost me to run a meetup? I mean, actually, like with the Zoom calls, with, the time that it takes me to coordinate people, the flyers, the Canva, all that stuff, take all of that, consider all of that cost, add that up there. And it came down to, I want to say roughly, it was like $35 a month. And then I divided that up per group, and then came to a number. So I was like, again, if I knew I was going to ask for $5 is not going to cover anything, especially if I know I'm going to lose members. So I was like, well, to me, I have no problem with charging 35 for me to be an organizer. I don't see a problem with being 35 for the year, not a month, a year, for a member to be a part of this group. So that's really the bottom line, is like, if I'm as an organizer willing to pay $35 a month for a group, I don't see the problem with $35 a year.
Excellent. Brenda, did you do any research to decide on your number?
No, but my background is accounting and finance. So as Tonia is talking about the calculations that she did, I'm like, okay, this is, sounds like a fun Excel project. Really, like I said, we started with $5. Once I became partner in 2019, I'm doing the budget and I see that $5 is enough. How we decided on $12 was, we thought it would be an easy sell to members because it's only $1 per month. So, but now again, thank you, Ashley, thank you, Meetup, for this opportunity. I'm learning so much from Tonia and Scott, and I love math. So
I know, Scott, you weren't the original organizer who set the dues, but I guess what I'll ask you is, have you considered raising your dues, and have you done any research or consideration on that front?
Yeah, I mean, I've considered, because one of the members, and now several, have suggested increasing it. And I think it's because we have so many people coming to the events. That it's interesting. There's a Phoenix singles group here in Arizona where I live, and they have 20,000 members, and there's no fee for that. And they do events, and they usually have 50 to 60 people there. And we have 200 members, and we have 50 to 60 people there. So we have a very engaged membership group. And the costs that I have are name tags, markers, prize. We do a cork dropping competition every event, and I can explain that later if someone wants to know. But and we give out a prize. And then I know this topic is not donations, but we've gotten some donations in. We use that money to buy some gift cards. So we do raffles at every event. And so if I did raise it, I would be able to get more resources, more gifts, more giveaways. I feel like I don't keep track of the money the way Tonia does. I have an accounting degree, by the way, too. But I feel like, all of my costs are being covered based on the current dues, and there's probably a little extra, which is, not complete compensation for my time, but there's some there, which is nice.
Excellent. I think each of you has sort of touched on this a little bit, but how has charging for dues helped you as an organizer, and how has it impacted member attendance at your events?
Yeah, I mean, since I just said it, I'll say it again. we have a very, very, very engaged group. So some events, we've had events where there's 55 going and 25 on the wait list. And I'm thinking like, that's 80 out of 200 people. It's just a huge, people want to be at our events. They tell most members, I'm sure this is probably true of most meetup members in general, most members of meetup are members of multiple groups.
Yep.
And people tell me all the time, this is the best group they're a member of. They look forward to this every week. They plan around it. And I think having that membership fee gives them a sense of ownership in the group. Like they're paying to be a part of it. And they want to be there. And then when they're there, they have a great time.
Yeah, they certainly have more skin in the game. Brenda, I'd love to hear how charging member dues, has it impacted member attendance for your groups, and how has it helped you as an organizer?
Yeah, so I think like Scott already touched on, and Tonia's as well earlier, once you start charging the dues, you see the number drop down drastically. So our total group size is smaller than other groups that don't charge dues, but I'm okay with that. We do feel that it cuts down on the no-shows, which, Meetup is a great platform, but that's, probably, an issue. It's so quick to RSVP and there's no accountability for you actually showing up. So then the event hosts are, disappointed when it's supposed to be this number, and then maybe no one shows up, right? Because there's no accountability. So we do believe that charging dues helps with that and helps with the member engagement. Most people will only pay, if they're actually going to put effort in attending events. So we do believe that we get more dedicated members that way, and it weeds out people that aren't actually committed to actively participating.
That's a great point. I think all of us tend to show up for things if we've paid for it, or at least certainly try to.
Can I add to that too? I'd like to add to what Ms. Brenda says. I don't really like to call it fees. I call them commitment fee. Well, it's fees, but it's a commitment fee. It's a commitment fee for my event hosts when they pay, because they're like Scott mentioned, they've got skin in the game. So it's not just me trying to grow the group. They're doing their best to grow the group. They're trying to, grow their membership. And so they're more engaged to reach out to members and follow up. And then the ones who are paying membership fees, commitment fee, again, is they are showing up. There's only, I looked at when I'm a pro and con type person, right? When I figured out these things. So there's two big things that you get from either charging these or, or not charging these, right? So if your meetup group is based off numbers, yeah, it makes sense to have a higher group rate of members based off of what you're doing. It could be like trying to get sponsorships, because numbers are important. But if you're a group where you're mainly for engagement or personal development, the intimate numbers mean more. So in the beginning, I was like, oh, I got to have a lot of members. But then when I really sat down and looked, do the numbers, who's actually showing up out of the percent of numbers, I'm having 800 members, but at an average, 11 people are showing up at each event. So it's like, this is not making sense. So, when I charge dues and it dropped down significantly, it's the same people who were already there. And so there's things that you can do with your fees where you can waive fees to certain people. So it's not like you have to charge everybody everything. You are the organizer. You get to decide what you want to charge, how you want to offset the cost for, for maybe members who have trouble paying it, but they want to be there. So, you're the one who's running the show. So that's basically how I come into that. It's like, what do I want my group to be like? And how do I want to feel like at the end of the day? Do I want to be frustrated? No, I want to be happy, because if I'm happy, I show up bubbly. That means my members are going to have a great time, because then I'm going to show up and I'll be bubbly. They're going to be bubbly. So we're going to have a good time.
And I just thinking about it and thinking about your group, Brenda, I wonder if because it's your group is for introverted people. Has that helped get people out the door? Like, have your members commented on that the do sort of like helps them participate?
Yeah, so anything that helps an introvert commit to getting out of the house is going to be great for them. They haven't specifically mentioned the dues, but I know that's been a part of it.
Amazing. I would love to understand, you've all touched on different things that you do, from gift raffles and special events and being able to provide more, but is there anything else that you feel you want to share in terms of showing members the value of paying for the group, since none of your members seem to have an issue with it and they seem very willing to pay to be a part of your communities?
I would say, I'm not seeing my understanding this correctly. It made me a better organizer, I guess, from the back end, because when people hop on a 30-day period, you can see how long their period lasts, right? So as an organizer, if I'm not reaching out and communicating to the people who are hopping on or encouraging them to come to the events, I'm just saying, hey, come to my event, and I'm hoping you see the value of it. But if I know that I'm talking to you and I'm reaching out to you, I have follow-up. I'll ask them to do one-on-one calls and follow up. And I ask them, what are they looking for? How can I serve you? Why'd you jump on our group in the first place? So it makes me more engaging as an entrepreneur, as an organizer, to know why they're there. And if I can figure out how I can maybe run my group to actually support them and what they're looking for, I think that makes it more engaging for the both of us. Because like you said, they have skin in the game. They're committed. I'm committed. We're going to work this together.
That's great. Brenda, how do you show the value to your members for paying for your group?
Yeah, I think you definitely want to, educate on how the group works, why you're charging dues. Meetup does allow you, when you set up dues, you can select different categories of what you're using it for, but we actually host virtual new member meetups periodically. So we do go into the dues discussion, what we're using the dues for, explaining that our city leaders, our event organizers that are hosting, they are volunteers. So normally at the end of that, I have people like, how can I pay, how can I pay now before my trial period extends? So I'm not just depending on Meetup to get that message out, getting that message out yourself through emails or the Zoom sessions that we have.
Amazing. Scott, how do you show your members the value for your group?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything more than what the ladies have said. It's just, we have great events. Like, I work hard at getting good venues. It's always engaging. It's always fun. I'm always there greeting people, getting them to sign up, giving their name tags, introducing them to new members. So when people come for the first time, they find it very easy to connect with people at our events. And I think that's like such an important need for everyone, is to feel connected, even when we're introverts. By the way, I'm an introvert. And I love running the group. I'm an introverted people person. So I love running the groups, and I give 100% at every event. But as an organizer, I often come home like tired and worn out because I need to get alone and recharge. So I'm glad Brenda's doing what she's doing for introverts.
I'd love to hear how member dues has allowed you to grow your group. And Tonia, I think especially with Pro, your tiered membership, I imagine, has allowed you to grow. Could you talk about that?
Oh yeah, I love my Pro account. But what it has helped me be is a little bit more strategic about who I partner with and what kind of groups I work with. And in the beginning, I was, like I said, I was I've always been like Scott. I'm a fanatic about Meetup. I love Meetup. I've always been a supporter of Meetup. I've been attendees for a long time. Then I took over. And when I took over groups, I was like, "Ooh, I can." My group is my idea would be like to have 30 groups or more eventually. But then I was like, "But wait, it costs money, right?" So I had to. Now what I do is like again, I strategically partner or come up with an idea of what the pro network is going to look like. What's the purpose behind the group before we start it? And so because of the pro network, I'm able to say like the women's empowerment, I partner with other women who have the same desire to help other women as well. So again, it's like I can only be one place, but I know as women are coming, as the network continues to grow, how can I have quality events? And mine are primarily online. We have people call over from all over, India. We've had them from Africa. We've had them call them from everywhere. And so how can I share the wealth, if you say, of connections with other people? So that's really how I think the pro network has worked with me, because if I start the group, it has to have some kind of idea what's the mission behind that group, what are we going to do with the group, and then that way I know who to partner with to actually bring them in to help me grow the group. So it's like I said, more strategic about what we're going to do with the group and under the pro network idea, because I was not a business owner when I first started it. So I was just a lover of groups, but now pro has made me a little more strategic, a little bit more business oriented when I go to manage my groups now.
Amazing. I can't believe it, but it's already time for us to answer some Q&A. It is 3:43, but time has flown. I think that means we are having a good time. So I will start with a question from George Young. They ask, I want to set modest membership dues, but I'm afraid everyone will leave the group. What should I do?
I'll answer that first. I'm saying, like I said, they will leave on $1, they'll leave on $5. So if I'm going to lose groups, I'm going to go for what I'm asking for. I need 35. So, that was me. I don't know if it's modest, but like I said, I paid $35 a month compared to $35 a year. To me, is a deal.
Yeah, definitely set what you're comfortable with. There are going to be some people that leave, but the people that are committed to what your meetup group is about, they will stay behind and pay.
Yeah, agreed. Expect people to leave. If you charge a fee, just expect it. So, and realize that what he's providing, what George is providing, is a value for the members, and the ones that appreciate the value will pay the fee.
Absolutely. I have seen a few questions come up. I will take this one. Does Meetup take a percentage of membership dues? The answer to that is it's a transaction fee of 7.5% plus 50 cents is the total amount reduced from what an organizer charges. So I just wanted to clear that up for everyone because I've seen it come up a few times. All right, our next question is, do you think it's difficult, from Joanna BW, do you think it's difficult to add a fee if there wasn't one before, especially if attendance is low? And Tonia, based on what you shared earlier, I feel like it actually evened out your attendance so that you had members in the group that were committed, but I'd love to hear from each of you what you think.
I'll go first on this one. It was really hard to charge. If I haven't charged them again, it was really, really hard to finally decide whether I was going to charge dues. But I was, like I said, the thing is when I was getting frustrated, it's like, who am I getting frustrated with? I'm frustrated with the members not showing up, or am I not frustrated with myself with not me following my inner guidance is telling me to charge the dues. So at the end of the day, yeah, I was happy the fact that I charged the dues. I was a little disheartened when I lost them, but I was at the point where I was okay with it. I knew I was going to lose them, so I was okay with that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely easier to charge dues for a new group that you're setting up rather than you've been around for a couple of years, now you want to start charging dues. But it's also going to be dependent on the information that you put out once you decide to, charge dues. Like, you can be speaking to your members during the, events during that time period, during that trial period, just saying, hey, we're starting to charge dues now. This is why. You can send emails through Meetup, letting them know, educating them. So because they might be getting that correspondence from Meetup and they're ignoring it, but they might not ignore it if you send it directly. So if you're going to start charging dues, make sure that's a part of your plan, is educating your members online, in person, however your Meetup group is run.
Yeah, to that end, Tonia, we do have a question sort of very along those lines from Masha L. She asked, Tonia, how did you let members know about the dues? Could you share more about your love letter to members when you decided to make that change?
Oh yeah, I'm in a group of other organizers, like a mastermind group, and we were all talking about if we were going to future plan, if we were going to write if we were going to charge dues, what would we have to say? So that's when I really had to sit down and like, dear members, this is a hard decision for me to have to do this, but in this day and age when we're all, we're fighting costs of like the meetups and the Zooms, and I just wrote out everything that I wanted to say to them, and be help heart-centered when I wrote it, and explain to them that this is painful for me to have to do this. I love to give free if I could, but it's costing me at the end of the day. And again, I think I shared it. I was unhappy. If I'm unhappy, my meetings are not going to be happy too, because I'm like, y'all want to show up for free, but this is killing me. So again, I had to have a heart-centered moment to write me a letter, and I sent it out to my members. The email system didn't quite go the way I like it. So if you have a way to reach out to them a little bit better, I would definitely say, really put that letter out there. But I did have members who did hop off, or made that deadline. They didn't get the letter, and I sent it to them, and as they got the letter, they got to understand, but which most people understand when they got it. But it was really the disconnect of the emails and the connection. But
Yeah.
once I wrote the letter out, it wasn't hard for them to understand why I did it. So I guess, like I said, take that moment to do a heartfelt check in with yourself and ask yourself, why are you doing it? And if you can, be sincere about it, they accept it.
It's great advice. Harry P asks, how do you prevent non-paying members from coming to events since they are usually held at public venues? I think that is a great question.
So for us, we're having happy hours and bars and restaurants and stuff like that. So people observe us all the time. We have name tags. So you can't be in the group unless you have a name tag. But by doing those type of events, people ask, what's going on? Who are these people? What are you doing together? And we've had a lot of people end up joining the group, but not, they hang out at the event and then they join the group. So.
Great. Scott, there's actually a question for you around your happy hour events. Do you allow guests, and do guests have to pay, or do people ever just show up?
Yes. Yeah, sometimes we allow guests because we've been having so many. Some venues, I just say no guests because I want as many members to come as possible. Occasionally, people will come and bring a guest with them, and I'll let them know that's not okay. They can't keep doing that. That rarely happens. But another point sort of related to this question is that we are real sticklers about attending events that you sign up for. Like, don't cancel the day up, don't cancel 24 hours before. If you signed up, show up. And if people miss too many events, which is just a couple, we'll kick them out of the group. So we have a high attendance rate, a high percentage of attendance rates, because people realize the value of being there and want to be there and don't want to lose the group.
I think that's great. Just to all of our organizers, we do allow you to make your own rules for your group. So you can have your own rules and guidelines that you use to help make sure that if members RSVP, that they do show up. And we fully support our organizers, making sure that their time is respected, because we know how much effort and energy it takes to just set up an event, let alone actually go through the trouble of hosting one. So I just wanted to call that out for all of you. From Andrea Leeson, they ask, how many events do you tend to hold per month? And do you think you need to hold a certain amount per month to justify the cost of joining the group? That's to any of you, whoever wants
I
to
think
answer.
it depends on, you know, because we have 14 different chapters. All of those chapters range in size. So it really just depends on the number of your people in your group. Our Atlanta chapter has about 600 people, and we have about, I don't know, maybe 20 organizers. So they literally have probably at least 30 events, if not more, per month. Whereas we have, you know, Chicago chapter, they may have like 150 members, but they do have something going on every weekend. So about four events per month. So it's really going to depend on the size of your group.
I'd like to ask, add, mine is two, I have two groups, like, so one is a membership based group, and then the other one is supported by the event host. My member, on average, I do one event a week, and that's, but I think it's not really about the number, it's the quality of your event and how, you know, how engaged are you with your members. It's really not how many, you could have 2 events a month and be the best darn, you know, event that you have. So it's not about the quantity of events, it's the quality of the events that you hold. I think that's really what really gives the drawing to the dues, if you want to say.
We do weekly happy hour and then occasional additional events, maybe a couple a month. And I have actually several assistant organizers who, when I get tired or burn out, or sometimes they'll just suggest offering to host events for me, which is nice because that way I'm not carrying it all the time. And we also have a level of recognition if people attend. Once they've attended 100 events, they get a name tag and they're part of the Century Club. And so that's something that those members wear proudly. That means they've drank a lot of wine, at least 100 events. And other members who have not been there that long want to, you know, eventually get to that point.
From Anonymous, when setting up a new group, should I charge from the start or wait a little bit? I don't know if any of you have thoughts on that when it's a brand new group that you're just starting.
Boy, it's tough. It depends. It depends because if you're charging up front and no one's attended the group before, they have to believe that it's going to provide value without having attended it. So I think I like what Tony said earlier, you know, like get in your heart, what's your heart saying, you know, what's your intention, how can you serve and love those people and provide something great for them and figure out what's the best way to go, I think.
Yeah, I think we plan on opening 6 new chapters this year, and my plan is to start dues right once those new groups are created. But that's also going to hold me accountable to make sure that I'm showing the value of that group within that trial period, 60, 90 days, however I decide. It's going to hold me accountable. It's going to hold our event organizers accountable for making sure they have events during that month. So if we can't show value, you know, once we start, it's probably not going to be able to show value, you know, later on down the road. So, but it is up to you. But, you know, this year, like I said, we're going to start those dues right off the bat.
We have time for one more question from Connie, which is it best to charge monthly or per event or annually for your member dues?
I'll answer first. I'm hearing a lot that they prefer to answer the pay monthly. I mean, not monthly, annually. So that's all taken care of. That's why I give an option. So we do have a monthly. It has a monthly breakdown if they want to do the $6 or whatever per month. But if they want the discount, you pay the 35 out for the whole year, and that covers, you get a discount plus you get the whole year. So I mean, we just leverage the cost a little bit to incentivize.
Excellent. Excellent.
I think it's
Me-
easier to charge annual, but I mean, if you were charging like, I don't know, $150 per year, then you might want to break down that monthly, but we only charge $12, so it just makes sense to do it.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Tonia, Scott, and Brenda, for your time sharing your insights with us. Do we have slides to go back to? In the chat, Emily has shared everyone's information, so you can find Scott, Tonia, and Brenda. You can find them on social. You can find them on LinkedIn, and you can just find their groups if you're interested in learning more about them or seeing how they've set it up. And just as a PSA, Meetup has a Discord community for our organizers where you can connect with other organizers and share feedback. And as a member of the product team, we certainly love jumping in there and asking for feedback on different things. So if you're interested, you can scan this and join our Discord community and find support with other organizers. As a reminder, we have our podcast, the Keep Connected podcast with our CEO, David Siegel, and you can subscribe there by scanning the QR code or at meetuppodcast.com. And thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.